Hey everybody, hope all is going well today. Welcome to Real Mob Stories. This is your host, James Proctor. I'm so excited and honored to bring you my exclusive interview with Chad Marks, the man most responsible for the compassionate release of former Bath Avenue crew member Tommy Reynolds. I have to say that Chad's one of those rare people that are advocates for change. Chad's actions speak louder than his words. His passion and Christian heart's contagious, and listen to him today, you'll see why. Bringing awareness to compassionate release and the judicial system we have in place is a passion of mine. I've been doing shows talking about it. Regarding Tommy Reynolds, some people will say he doesn't deserve a second chance, and I get that. But I also believe that we live in a country of second chances, and the goal of prison should be more than just punishment. It should be a place of rehabilitation. And that's obviously a grandiose idea, and it doesn't take in consideration the families of victims of violent criminal behavior. But I want to see good in people, and if a person's truly repentant and remorseful, personally, I want to see that second chance. I've been covering the Tommy Reynolds case for a while now, and I gave you my opinion of it previously. I spoke with attorneys. I got their insights on the First Step Act and shared it with you. And just yesterday, I shared with you what Jimmy Calandra had to say about Tommy Reynolds. Today, we bring this back to its logical conclusion, where I speak with Chad Marks, the man responsible for Tommy Reynolds' upcoming release. For those family members who have loved ones in prison, Chad Marks is the real deal. He was the first person to successfully get a compassionate release when he did his own paperwork and got released from prison a few years ago. And since then, he's been an advocate for those seeking compassionate release, and he has a proven and successful track record. You'll see his contact information in the video and in the video description. And I encourage those families that have questions about compassionate release and are considering filing a brief for compassionate release to contact Chad. He'll tell you what he can and can't do. If there's not a chance he can succeed, he'll let you know that too. He just won't take your money. It's a bold claim, but I'll put it out there. Chad Marks is the best advocate you can have if you're looking for a compassionate release, and he has a heart for his clients and the clients' families. With all that said, please do me a favor and hit the like button, and also if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. Without further delay, on to my exclusive interview with Chad Marks. Hey, Chad, thanks for coming on with me today. How are you today, my brother?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing really good, and I want to thank you for coming on. You know, I remember when you came on when I did the show with Lee, and you know it was a lot of fun, and so you know you've always been one of my favorite people. You've always enjoyed the time that we've been able to spend together on here, and you know you're doing some great stuff. And you know what I respect about you is you walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So you know you're helping a lot of people with compassionate release, and you're probably had more success with this than anybody else. And I know there's a lot of convicts and families that are grateful for you.
Well, definitely appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, yeah. I just want people to know that, and so yeah, there's a few things I wanted to talk about. You know, I've been doing a lot lately on the channel, bringing awareness to compassionate release and the First Step Act, and you know, we have an aging population. You know, it's just going to get worse, and you know, I've also spoke with a couple of attorneys, got their thoughts, but you know, obviously wanted to bring you on because you know you actually live this and you navigate through the system, you deal with the convicts, you work with the families. And so my first question's around the courts looking at when considering compassionate release. So I was told that it's easier to get a compassionate release if you plead guilty to the offense, you don't fight the original case, and you show remorse in court. And I was told that many mob guys end up not getting out in part because they plead not guilty, they fight the case, and they lose. So, where does the original case actually play into the decision later on of compassionate release?
So let me say this so that people know, right?
Yeah.
I wrote the first compassionate release motion to win after Trump passed the First Step Act. I did the Colorado Can 2 case. It was out of Texas. He was a mayor. He was the sheriff. Some people are like, man, you work for the police, man. Look, this is what it is, man. I was actually in prison at FMC Lexington with this guy. And, I started in Big Sandy, went to Pollock, been in USP Lee, been in all these crazy, dangerous places, all of that stuff. But eventually I ended up making it to FMC Lexington, right? Federal Medical Center. Right. I do my last 11 months there. I end up winning my own compassionate release. And I do the Colorado Can 2 case, right? And I tell them, look, I think that I'm right about this. Obviously we didn't have many resources, but I said, I think I'm right. We write his compassionate release. We win. The judge lets Colorado Can 2 out of prison. Since that time, thousands and thousands of people have gotten out based off of compassionate release. I've won numerous cases. I think I've had 8 life sentences. Obviously you have me on today because I'm the guy that wrote Tommy Reynolds' compassionate release.
Exactly.
I had helped Tommy Reynolds years ago when we were in Raybrook. Tommy Reynolds and me he's my buddy, man. He's my friend. He's not just some dude that I did some legal work for as a jailhouse lawyer in prison. And then when I got out, he was my buddy. So we did Tommy's compassionate release, ended up getting him, pretty much get him a time served. He's waiting to go to where he needs to go, halfway house. And he'll be there. He'll be there soon.
Yeah.
So as far as the compassionate release stuff, I sat on a lot of people that are watching this from New York. I sat on a panel with Judge Preska. Harlan Protass invited me. One of the best attorneys you can get in New York. So if you need an attorney and you're looking for Harlan Protass, he's the guy to get over there. If you don't have the money that he wants, you can always call me. And you know what? I win a lot. I win probably more than a lot of people. But
and I'll put that information up. So I'll make sure to put Harlan's information and yours so people can contact him, because there's a lot of people that watch this show that have family members are involved in this situation.
So, let me say this, right? When I sat on that panel with Judge Preska about compassionate release, and she's released a lot of people,
Right.
I just, I listened to what she had to say, what she was looking for from a judge's perspective. What does she want to see inside of this? Yeah, of course, a lot of times judges want to see remorse. They want to see acceptance of responsibility. I mean, Larry Hooper's going through that right now.
Yeah.
Down in Illinois, where the judge asked that he had a hearing the other day, and the judge says, how many guys did this guy kill? How many guys how many murders is this guy responsible for? I want an answer. And the judge gave, his defense team, I think 30 or 45 days to respond to that. Right. So judges always want to see remorse. They want to see compassion. They want to see acceptance of responsibility. And pretty much, if you're not going to accept responsibility, and I got a guy right now who, was sentenced to, a couple life sentences at the age of 22. And in that motion, I apologize for the death of the victim. He writes me back, says, I don't want to apologize for the death of that dude, man. I'm not guilty of that. I was never found. I said, no matter what you were found guilty of on paper, the judge knows what happened. The judge wants to hear you say, hey, I'm sorry for you don't have to admit that you killed the cat, but at least, or that you were involved in this guy's murder, but at least accept responsibility to the point where you're saying, hey, look, I'm remorseful that this man lost his life. Whether or not you pulled the trigger or not, you're involved in this conspiracy. You should probably tell the judge that, I'm sorry that this young man lost his life. Yeah. He's objecting to it 3 different times. He wants it. He don't want that in there. Okay, we'll do it your way. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be, something that's going to hurt him. But sometimes when you're sitting in prison, you can't see past it. You already got 30 years in. Just go ahead and say, hey, I'm sorry. And when you don't do that, then guess what? You're probably going to be in trouble, right? It's probably not going to work out for you. So, I think that a lot of judges want to see you say, hey, look, I accept responsibility for the irrational, irresponsible choices that I made. I made them when I was a young man. And you know what? I regret them today. But today I'm a different person. This is what I've done since I've been in prison, Your Honor. I've taken this program. I've taken that program. I'm no longer a threat to public safety under, 18 U.S.C. 3553A. One of the factors are you have to show pretty much that, look, I'm not going to go out here and commit any more crimes. And this is why. So I think that's what judges are looking for.
Yeah. And, that was the thing I tried to explain that with Tommy Reynolds' case, just the case itself, is he, in Mob Story, the book, it's the story of Chris Pozziello, but they talk a lot about Tommy Reynolds in that. But they talk about when he went to court, he pled guilty. He actually had an agreement that if he pled guilty, he would get some sort of sentence less than life, but then he got life in prison. A couple of years later, he gets it. The judge realizes that was an error. He gets it down to 42 years. But in court, he expressed remorse. He said he didn't, he was very remorseful, especially anyone not involved in that life. He pled guilty.
Let me say
And
this, right? Like I did Tommy's first motion too when we got the reduction. I did that from
the
prison.
36 years, right, or whatever. Or yeah.
And then I did his compassionate release after I got out of prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is remorseful, man. Tommy's not the same dude that he once was. I think he's, I know. I lived every day with this dude. He
Yeah.
turned his life around. He's a different person, man. Unfortunately, some people lost their lives. And I know that there are people out there who have left comments about, me getting him, getting his sentence reduced and then eventually, getting him released hopefully soon, where some people have wrote me some nasty stuff. He killed an innocent woman. And look, you can never bring those people back, right?
No.
And there always has to be consequences for actions. And we live in a society that, we say, hey, we want revenge, we want blood for blood. But yet we also say we're a society of second chances, right?
Yes.
And then, so what is it? I mean, is it this or is it that? You know what I mean? Do I think Tommy deserves a second chance? I do, man. He's older now. He wants to go home and, spend some time with his mother, who I know has done some interviews, things of that nature. I think Tommy, deserves a second chance. And I not even doubt. I know 100% that, well, I better make sure I'm clear, right? Tommy's not going to get out here and commit any crimes. Some people probably don't know this, but Tommy's a believer in God. Make no mistakes about it, man. I mean, he's not going to let people push him around and put their hand on or anything like that. But the dude's he's respectful. He's humble. Just the respect level from Tommy's just astronomical, man. He's just the type of dude that he is. And I do believe
that's true.
we can't bring these people back.
No.
But some people will argue till they're blue in the face that if you take a life, you deserve to die in prison. And you know what? Sometimes I can't argue with that. I mean, that's your opinion. That's how you feel. I don't subscribe to the same thing unless you do something to kids, because kids are innocent victims, man. You do something to kids, and I think that you're hit. But that's my perspective on Tommy and his situation.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And, I've tried to explain to folks this genre, it's a little frustrating to me because I think people need to see a little common sense. They start, and I'm just going to bring this one thing up on this. People are going to say that he's going to, Jimmy Clander needs to be careful, all that stuff. And Jimmy's not going to do anything to Tommy. Tommy's not going to do anything to Jimmy. Jimmy's actually said he's not. And it's so stupid. And the only thing they're doing is upsetting Mary Ann when they say this nonsense. And I just think people need to realize that he's going to live his life and not be involved in anything. He wants to just spend time with his mother, try to re-engage his relationship with his daughter, I believe. And that's what I think he's going to do,
And let me say this, right? Tommy could care less about Jimmy Calandra. You know what I mean? He doesn't care about Bath Street is long gone. It's no longer a part of his life. It's just a part of it was a
over
chapter
30 years ago or whatever.
It was a chapter in his life, man, a chapter in his book of life, right? And it's like chapter 5. He's like on chapter 35 right now. He could care less about that stuff, man. Trust me.
Yeah. I think people just need to, I think some people like drama, but I just want people to be a little respectful. They need to understand, there was a lot of hurt involved, and you've got family members, and, I just take the position of trying to be respectful for, people like Tommy's mom and like that, and not spread nonsense like that. But that's just where I come from. So, yeah, and I'm sure, back on compassionate release, I'm sure the seriousness of the crimes are part of it too. And, um, I know with the mob, so I deal more with the mob genre. And so many of the guys get convicted of violent acts. So where does that original act play into it? So, I know Rob Rosso, for example, he got out. He had a life sentence based on 3 strikes, you're out, and it's drugs. So nonviolent. So he gets out. But then you have others that have committed violent crimes. So what does that original sentence? How does that play into that decision?
Well, I mean, I think it always plays into it. And with Tommy's judge, let me say this: Tommy's judge is the same judge that just released Prince, right? You know, the Supreme Team in New York. I mean, there's numerous murders in that case. And the judge talks about Tommy, you know, in his history and says, you know, this isn't, you know, there's nothing nice here. You know, this was a bad crime. And he recognizes that there was violence involved and the loss of life and, you know, innocent life. And he says, look, you know, pretty much, you know, I've seen, and you've seen this in the last decision. It's public record.
Yeah.
Where, you know, he goes into, you know, the violence, but he says, look, I think this guy has turned his life around and I'm in the position to give him a second chance at life. He did the same thing with Prince. He said, look, you know, there's a lot of violence here and, you know, the laws have changed and this is what the deal is. And I'm going to give this guy a shot. I'm going to give him a second chance because I believe in him. You know, a lot of people go to prison young, right? And you commit some very violent acts and all that stuff, but people grow and they change. And, you know, you don't think like a child anymore. You start to think like a grown man. And even in Prince's case, like when you go read, you know, all the programs that he's done, all the people that he's helped in prison, I mean, at the end of the day, he was a role model in prison. He's someone that dudes looked up to. He's someone that when there was an issue, you know, maybe there was an issue between the New York car and the Mexicans or whatever. He's the type of dude that could, you know, people respected him. They knew who he was. And he could, you know, he could quell the violence. He could end the violence. He could end the race riot that, you know, was on the verge of happening. You know, and with Tommy, I was a facilitator in Alternative Violence Project seminar with Tommy. Me and him, you know, we facilitated that class together. This is a dude that committed some violence, but he's teaching people how to think right and how to do the right thing. You know, people change. And when people change, I do believe, you know, they deserve a second chance, man.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And so with the system, so let's talk about the system for example. So how important is it to have an attorney that actually specializes in compassionate release and also having somebody like you as an advocate? So please let the viewers know how important that is. And can you let people know what you do, how you help bring that case, how you're kind of, even though you may have an attorney, they need someone like you, you're able to navigate through the system. So maybe you could touch on how the services you provide and how that helps get the success that you're seeing.
So let me say this, right? I mean, there's always people out there that want your money, right? I've seen dudes pay, you know, certain lawyers, people that used to be prosecutors that become defense attorneys, pay $20,000, $30,000 and they get an 8-page motion and they lose. I'm going to give you an example. Russell Simmons, you know, his son, you know, he paid a whole bunch of money to these people. They wrote that he was in there, his adopted son, Jinx the Juvie, right? Derek Carr. And they, you know, they write this motion for him. They charge him thousands and thousands of dollars. They say that he's in there for robbery with a gun, and they say his name's Derek Smith. It's not. He's never had the last name Smith. He's not in there for robbery with a gun. None of that stuff. Drugs. They messed the case up. In 6 days, I go in there. I fix the case, and eventually, this kid ends up getting, you know, a reduction of 10 years off his sentence. So you get a lot of lawyers, man, that don't really give a shit. You know, they sound good. And everyone's like, "Oh, this dude's the best lawyer," and dude talk. But why is he the best lawyer? Because he won 3 cases 15 years ago, and they're still talking about him. You know, there's a lot of lawyers that just ain't got it because they don't give a shit. You know, they take your 30,000, they move on to the next case. When we talk about someone like Harlan Protass out of New York or Jillian Harrington out of Jersey, these are lawyers that really care. You know what I mean? Me, look, I spend 15 hours a day in my office, right? I work, and I like to win.
Yeah.
You know, it's personal for me. I told people when I walked out of prison, I did 17 years, 5 months, and 21 days. Sentenced to 40 years. Win my own compassionate release. I told people when I get out, I'm going to be the voice of the voiceless. I spoke in D.C. last year about, you know, at the Rewriting Sentencing Summit, and I addressed some of the sitting federal judges. I talked to the pardon attorney directly, ate lunch with her. You know, I actually sat at her table with the rabbi. You know, the difference is some people care. I'm cheaper, and I don't know, some people might get mad, but I'm better than a lot of people. And I speak from, I don't tell you to just because people say Chad's good. No, don't do that. Go look at my
track record too, though.
Go look at my record here. You know, like one of the kids that started the G Shine Bloods in New York City. I mean, there's 2 murders in that case. Chazzy Glenn. I get Chazzy's life sentence reduced. Noah Spino, you know, involved in some, you know, Mexican stuff and drug cartel stuff. I get his life sentence reduced to 30 after he pays a lawyer $40,000 and the lawyer loses. I go back 15 months later. I go in there and win. You know, that was one of them 10-page motions that just didn't have. I wrote a 40-page motion for that kid, and we win. Like, Tommy Reynolds, obviously I go in there and I knock it out of the box. This
Yeah,
is
you
what you need to do. But you might have a lawyer telling you got to do this, this, and this, and the lawyer's 100% wrong.
yeah.
So, look, I told people, like I said, when I got out, this is what I was going to do. I put a paralegal company together, Freedom Fighters, freedomfighterspc.com if you want to check out the website.
And you'll see that on the screen right now. You'll see it. So
yeah, just go check out some of the cases that I won. Check them out on that channel. I mean, on that website. I win. I win because I care. I win because I do the work. I win because, I don't write 5 or 6 page motions. I mean, you can win with a 7 or 8 page motion, but a lot of times you can't, especially not on a compassionate release. And I don't know, your viewers obviously are a lot of mob guys. For those that don't know, I did write my own compassionate release motion. Submitted that. Eventually, John Gleason ends up taking over my case. Phenomenal lawyer.
Yeah.
He brings a whole team with him. His team was they're just phenomenal, man. Elizabeth Costello, just these people were great, and they've won a lot. Harlan Protass wins a lot because he does the work. I know he's got a big case right now for another mob guy that I think I'm pretty sure he's about to win that. And everybody will hear about that soon. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
You got to put it, and I conversate with him, and we share ideas. Me and Harlan. I think Harlan's a great guy, and probably the best compassionate release attorney out there. If you're looking for an attorney in the New York City area, Jersey, Rhode Island, he's one everywhere. So,
no, that's really good. Is he? And so, what is one of the things I want viewers also to know is what? So you've talked a little bit about differentiation. What differentiates you from other people? And I'm talking about, I mean, obviously you have to have an attorney, but what you're doing, you do this legwork. And so what, don't necessarily reveal the secret sauce, but what is it that is allowing you to see that success? For me, what I think you're doing is that you're very meticulous, that you're very detailed, you don't leave any stone unturned, and that, you do more than just this grab a template and just put 5 or 6 pages together. So what is your differentiation from other people they could hire to do some of this?
So you don't necessarily need an attorney. Like every case that I've ever won, I wrote pro se, right? Like I won more cases than probably.
So you don't have to have an attorney at all. Okay.
Not necessarily. I mean, some people don't have $30,000 for an attorney, but maybe they got $3,500 to hire a paralegal, whether it's me, someone else, whatever.
So that's the going rate is 20, 30, 40,000 for a good attorney to do this, I guess.
I mean, yeah, big money. If you want a good attorney, yeah, it's going to be big money, right?
Okay.
And then as far as me, I write well, and I'm fact specific, and I actually care. Actually, I did a case for Makim Moskanov, right? He was my buddy. We were at Raybrook. He's in the law library every day. Man, really, I did his case for like $500, man. I did it like super cheap. He's my buddy. You know what I mean? He didn't have a lot, been in prison all them years. We file it. The judge appoints the head federal defender, Deidre Von Dornum, who I have nothing but respect for. She ends up putting my name. She said, it's your work. She put my name on the reply, like, me with her. And that was submitted to the court. Like, she's one person that recognized the stuff that I've done, So definitely appreciate her. But yeah, when you're doing a compassionate release, and I do post-conviction, I do direct appeals, and I've won everywhere. I've done clemency packages for people. I got my buddy Jimmy Roman's life for weed. I wrote his clemency petition. He got out of prison. Everybody else wanted to, hey, come here. We want to interview Jimmy. We want to bring Jimmy out to this event. But I'm the dude that wrote it. You know what I mean? But I don't care as long as he got out. The secret sauce is actually doing the work, making it fact specific, and keeping it real. If people got a shot, tell them, yeah, you got a real shot. If you don't take their money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
so you'll look at a case and you've told people, well, you don't really have a shot at this. Have you done that before?
I've done it numerous times. I tell people, look, save your money, spend it on commissary, man. Nothing I can do for you. I've done it numerous times. Sometimes there are cases where it could go either way. It can go either way all the time, right?
Yeah.
But well, not all. Sometimes the door's closed. You don't have. If you don't have nothing, you don't have nothing. But when you're dealing with compassionate release, you might have this set of facts, right? Your rehabilitation, maybe you're sick, maybe you're not getting proper medical attention, maybe there's a change in law under 924C stacking, Maybe there's a change of law under 851 where, you got 3 priors, you end up with a life sentence. It depends. But at the end of the day, and I tell people this all the time, ultimately it comes down to who? The judge. It doesn't come down to Chad Marks. It doesn't come down to the client. It comes down to the judge. But you can't do sloppy work and submit stuff that makes no sense. And I write good, So for those who haven't read my book, Blood on the Razor Wire, no, I mean, I write well.
Excellent book, by the way. One of my favorite books, and that you're real. It's very gritty, but it's real, and I appreciate the book, and everyone needs to read it.
Thank you. So, look, man, I believe God gave me a gift, right? And when I win cases, I do tell people, man, God just works through me, not to be out here Bible thumping or holy rolling, but I do believe that God gave me a gift and I use it. And I told guys when I got out, I'm going to be the voice of the voiceless, because I know what it's like to be in prison and call an attorney and say, hey, I got these issues. And they're like, okay, yeah, I can help you if you come up with $35,000. Man, I've been in prison 10 years. I can't come up with $3,500 right now. You know what I mean?
A lot of defense out there with attorneys, a lot of them are just taking your money, unfortunately.
Make no mistakes. I mean, there's some good attorneys out there that really care. I mean, I mentioned a couple of them: John Gleason, Harlan Protass, Jill Harrington. I got involved with Judge Gleason because of Harlan. After they did the Holloway case, Gleason was the judge. So after they do the Holloway case, I write Harlan. He writes me back and says, look, I might have someone that might be interested in helping you. And he sends me John Gleason. He sends my stuff over to Gleason. They contact me and they say, hey, look, not right now, but maybe in the future. And they gave me some suggestions. They're doing college. Go get a college degree, which I did. Stay out of trouble. Do as many programs as you can. And 2.5 years later, the compassionate release thing comes out. They changed the law under the First Step Act under Trump. And I start writing my own motion. I get back in contact with Harlan. I get back in contact with Gleason. And once, everything's submitted, they're like, hey, look, yeah, we'll take over from here. And they jump in the driver's seat and they help me.
Oh, that's awesome. So one thing about the mob guys. So do former mob guys have a disadvantage getting out? Because what I'm told that hurts some of these wise guys is that while they're in prison, they'll hang out with other quote unquote wise guys. And they're usually model prisoners. That's something that I've also heard, not trying to generalize Italian American that were in the mob or whatever, but that's what I'm told. That usually most of them are model prisoners, but they're also looked at maybe being manipulative or trying to exploit the system. For example, maybe there's some sort of medical diagnosis and they make it into much more than it really is. But what's the truth about mob guys and their ability to get compassionate release, or the inability in many cases? Is it more that it's high profile cases? And because I even read Judge Block where he said that he was afraid of public perception if he let Vicamuso out, for example. And he said that he didn't want to be called a blockhead, because that's what they had called back in 2007 when he let someone out on parole or whatever. But what is it with some of the former mob guys that are having a disadvantage on getting out?
Here's the disadvantage for mob guys. It doesn't matter who you hang out in prison. They don't even see that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't think
they're doing some bullshit. But yeah, most mob guys mind their business. They don't bother people. Like I was with Alley Boy and Big Sandy. I was in Truccio, right? I was with Teddy, right? I was with Teddy, man, for years. In Raybrook. It doesn't. They don't know who you're hanging out. These guys ain't in there causing trouble. They're not in there stabbing people. You know. Well, you can say like with Boy George, like he went in front of, he had Harlan, and he went in front of Judge Prescott, and Judge Prescott pretty much was like, look, come back and show me that you're not involved in a bunch of bullshit in prison, and I'll help you out. So someone like Vic, I mean, I was with Vic. I was in Big Sandy with Vic. I was in Coleman with Vic. Someone like Vic, probably no. You know what I mean? No. Just because of who he is and his status, right?
It doesn't matter that he supposedly got, he's in a wheelchair and suffering from dementia and all that, so that doesn't matter then, right?
What matters is this. Sometimes it matters. In those cases, it matters who your judge is, right? Judge, I can't say his name right, Garaffius, the guy that let
Nicholas Garaffius or whatever.
Yeah. He lets Prince out, he lets Tommy out. If you got that judge, then you might be in good shape. You got Judge Prescott, you're doing the right thing, you're probably in good shape. But if you got someone that's a hard-nosed judge that, former prosecutors, and they're like, look, you know what? No, I'm here to protect the community, and nothing's ever going to change my mind. I don't care if you did 1,000 programs. I don't care if you're on your deathbed. Like Harlan did that Mark Reeder case, right? I know that was in Gangland the other day.
That's the other one. Yeah. And I was
the judge let Mark,
the
judge pretty much, it seemed Mark should have got out, right? And the judge let this case go on and go on and go on and go on for 3 years instead of just granting the shit. He just let it go on until the dude died. Who was it? Let me see.
They had the same thing with this guy,
right?
Vinny Unions recently. He actually got the release approved and then died the next day before he could actually get out.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to this. Number one, do you have issues? Number two, how do you write? If you write a sloppy motion, you're like, dude, I've seen people send in handwritten motions and win. I've seen them send in handwritten motions that make no sense and lose. You have to do good work. You have to really address the issues, make it fact specific. Some of these dudes try to, send in boilerplate motions and they say nothing about themselves and nothing about their case. Have a good home plan, depending on who you are, and how old you are and what your medical conditions are. Have an employment letters. I'm going to go out here. This is what I'm going to do. This is who I'm going to live with. Letters of recommendation from, people in the community, people that believe in you, people that see the change. Even letters from dudes in prison. Judge Preska mentioned that when I did the compassionate release sit down with her and Harlan and some other people. She said she likes to see what other prisoners have to say about you and what you've been doing in prison. That you've taught alternative violence project seminars like Tommy Reynolds. You've been in Leaders Breed Leaders. You've got an education. You have a college degree. They want to see this stuff, man.
Yeah.
So those are the things that really matter.
Yeah. No, I mean that makes sense. And then one of the other things is kind of related to this is so with sentencing guidelines were changed in 1988 or so, and the federal system, my understanding, they abolished parole for the most part. And so, and I think that's a problem. I think there should be an opportunity for parole for these guys. So are we seeing compassionate release being expanded beyond its original intent and now being used as a replacement for the old parole system that was in place?
Some people will make that argument, right? I think what compassionate release has done has given judges back the ability to judge, right? When you had the sentencing guidelines, you got mandatory minimums. They come in and say, yep, you're a level 36 minus 3 points, 292 to 365 months. I know I'm going to act in a moment of compassion and give you the 292 months, but I really don't even want to give you that. If it was up to me, I'd give you 12 years or I'd give you 10.
Right.
I just couldn't do that, right? If it was up to me. But it's not, or hey, look, I got to give you life now under 851 because that's what the statute says. It's not up to me. So now, what Congress has done and what the Sentencing Commission has done is given judges back the power to be judges, which they should. You're a judge for a reason. You're not up here to go on this is who, you can't ever consider the person. You can't consider, family circumstances. Right. What compassionate release has done, what Congress has done, what the Sentencing Commission has done, who John Gleason was a big, part of that sentencing commission. They've given judges back the ability to judge. When he was a judge, he probably was pissed off that he couldn't judge people. And that's what it is. Has it replaced parole? I guess you could say that to a certain extent, right? You're not sitting in front of a parole commission. Now you're sitting in front of the trial judge, in front of the sentencing judge, who says, you know what? In my case, Judge Larimer says, you know what? You did 17 and a half years. You've done numerous programs. The law has changed. I believe in you. And because I believe in you, and this is a Republican judge who told me pretty much that I should have got life when he sentenced me, but he used the words, I'm acting in a moment of compassion for you and your mother. And I'm going to give you the 40-year mandatory minimum.
Oh, God.
So he goes back and he says, you know what, Chad, I'm going to tell you that I believe in you. And he reduced my sentence from 40 to 20. And then a couple of years out on probation, he says, hey, look, I want to see you in my chambers, which I was scared shitless. I want you to bring your wife and your kids with you. I have 2 little twin boys. Me and my wife, we got remarried and had twin boys. And I want to see you guys in person. So we go there. And when we get there, he pretty much tells me, look, man, give me a little bit more time. I believed in you. Don't disappoint me. You told me in a letter that you said you would never disappoint me. And I'm going to release you off of probation because I believe in you again. And you know what? 4.5 years later, I'm still out here and I'm still free and I'm not committing crimes. And I'm thankful that judge had the power to replace parole or just to see me as who I am 20 years later and give me a second chance.
Yeah, and I think it's probably I think that's better to have the judge make that decision because the judge is familiar. At least what I'm seeing is usually the sentencing judge, right, is the one that will look at the compassionate release later on, right? Because that's what I've noticed. Like, it's not the case all the time, but that's what I noticed. Like, Judge Groff was like the original judge for maybe certain guys, and then he'll be the one that looks at the compassionate release, right?
100%. I mean, it always goes back
Yeah.
to the trial judge. If your judge retired and he's no longer there, then you get whoever's next on the on the platform, right? But yeah, I think that yeah, I mean, judges sometimes you get a really shitty judge when you first get sentenced, right?
Yeah.
And then you go back and you got a judge that's much more compassionate. And
Mm.
the judge says, you know what, I'm going to give you a shot. I believe in you. Comes down
Yeah.
to the judge believing in you. So you have to
Yeah.
do everything you can on a compassionate release motion to show
Mhm.
the judge that you're no longer a threat to public safety, that you're a changed man, and you're not going to make the judge look bad for releasing you, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And plus, I think where you have an advantage too is that you understand these judges, especially the federal ones, certain ones. You kind of understand their tendencies, their personality, and all that. And that probably goes a long ways too on how to help get a case, help with putting together a brief and all of that, right? Because you kind of know these federal judges and what
Well,
they
like I
want to look
mentioned,
for.
Judge Prescott, like if I'm doing a case in front of Judge Prescott, I know what she said she likes to see. So
Mhm.
I'll tell the guy, hey, get some letters from other dudes in there that you taught classes to. Get
Yeah.
us a family plan. Where are you going to live at? Who are you going to work for? Do you have any jobs? Let's get some pictures. I put family pictures in their home plans. Like this guy has a family that loves and cares about him, and they're going to help him with a successful reentry. They're committed to doing so, Judge. And here's a picture of these people. Here's 4 or 5 pictures with him with his family on visits. He's got that support. Because, when you go in front of a judge with compassionate release and you tell the judge, hey, look, let me out, but you have nothing to,
Yeah.
let you out to where? Where are you going? Do you have a job? How are you going to take care of yourself?
Yeah.
If you don't have a job, are you going to be back out here selling drugs and be back in prison and make me look like a fool? I mean, these are
Right.
things that judges probably think about.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And yeah, just a couple of quick questions so a couple of specific cases that have happened recently. So a lot of people were interested because Joey Testa and Anthony Center got out. They had originally gotten life, but they were sentenced during, the pre-1988 sentencing guidelines. And so I guess on those guidelines, you could get out in 30 to 35 years. And that was when parole, you could have parole. But then you have Henry Borelli. He was a third person that was involved in all that. And, Borelli, instead of giving him life, they gave him 150 years. And what's ironic is that Henry Borelli can't get out because the law at that time is that you had to serve 2/3 of your sentence before parole. So he has to serve 100 years before he can get out. But then Joey Testa and Anthony Center actually get life, but they can get out in 30 to 35 years. So what do you think about that and the, Henry Borelli, or if you're familiar with that case?
So, yeah, I'm familiar with Testa and those guys over there, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really read their cases or their
Mhm.
decisions or what's going on with Henry or any of that stuff, but this is the deal. You got guys like Guy Fisher out of New York, right?
Mhm.
He was sentenced under the old law. And the
Yeah.
judge in the beginning of compassionate release, because he got it together right away, which I had sent him a bunch of stuff in prison, like, brother, you got to get out. This is what you got to do, whatever. The federal defender's office ended up filing his stuff and he gets out. But there's guys that are under the old law. Like I got a guy right now out of Illinois, and the court said, no, you're under the old law. There's nothing I can do. I want to let you out, but you were arrested in 1985. There's nothing I can't budge. I can't do anything. So is it fair? Some people say, well, he killed numerous people. Testa shouldn't be out either, right?
Right.
I mean, look, this is what the law is. And unfortunately, sometimes you're stuck. The law is the law. Sometimes there's not a way around it. And I think that's the position that he's in. There's just no way around it for him.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. And two things before we leave. One thing I, wanted to kind of let the viewers know. I'm kind of excited about this. You're actually going to interview Tommy Reynolds when he gets out, correct?
Yeah, it looks that way. Look, Tommy's a man of his word, right? And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, Tommy's my friend. And Tommy told me, he said, look, man, I told him, I said, look, I get you out of this and we win this. You owe me an interview. Like, I was joking around with him. He's like, man, 100%. And we've talked about it numerous times. And he says, he says, hey, look, yeah, I still owe you that interview. When I get out, brother, you got it. You got it coming. I'd like to do it in person. I'm going to start doing in-person interviews on my channel anyway. I'll go to wherever Tommy's going to be at, and we'll probably do that in person. Maybe we'll rent a studio wherever he's at, and we'll make that happen. But yeah, I think that we're probably going to do an interview. He's committed to it. Told me that he would, and like I said, he's a man of his word. So
Yeah. And, I feel kind of bad. I think a lot of the news got out. I think his mom wanted to give him the information or the good news, and things kind of got out there prematurely, I guess. But how much
listen,
longer?
Tommy didn't know he was getting out until he got an email from me and his mom. That's when he found out.
Okay.
So
That's
he didn't.
good.
He didn't find out from the news. He found out that I sent him a message that day.
Oh, you
And
did? Okay.
he didn't look at his email until the morning. But it says, as soon as he seen his email, I wrote, "We won, brother." And he said he clicked on that email. I was like, "Oh my god!" So
Yeah, no, that's great. And how much longer does, or not exact date. I mean, I know you look at Bureau of Prisons. I know they don't have the right date,
just to answer
but
your question for you, right? Well,
yeah.
this is the deal. Right now, it's on the Bureau of Prisons to do what they have to do to let him out. Some people
Okay.
get it like that. Some people it takes a week. Some people it might take 2 weeks. But they got to put that paperwork together and make sure that he has a bed and that he's getting out and where he's going. And I think that'll probably happen, hopefully sooner rather than later. But it's happening, bro.
And they have to, I guess, in cases like that, there'll be a readjustment to society through like halfway house type situation.
Well, they do that sometimes. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
where Tommy's going or
No,
what he's
don't
doing.
say where
He
he's
might be,
going.
you never know. He might be in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
He might be in Florida. You don't know where he's going to be, but I'll be there to interview him though.
Okay. No, that's good enough. So the last thing is, so Rob Rosso, he knew Tommy. He also, I don't know if you've been following him. He got the compassionate release, obviously, and relapses. He just couldn't stay off drugs. He's had a what do you call it, violation of supervised release. So he's in jail. He's in prison until probably January, maybe a little bit before. And what? One of the things I did when he first got violated, they gave him another chance. I'd actually wrote a letter to the judge, and that's actually, if you go into Pacer, you could see the letter. But they said that was one of the main reasons that they didn't violate him then. They gave him another chance, but he's doing these shows from prison now. I'm hoping he'll get his act together. But have you talked to Rob, and what's your thoughts on that? Because the thing that is ironic is both of you guys had the same chance and opportunity, and he actually started off doing well, and you did too. But then he couldn't stay off drugs, and you see where he detoured and where you're at now. So do you think that they didn't give him is it adjustment to society? I know addiction issues are saying that can be inherent, but what's your thoughts on that? And have you talked to Rob, or what's your thoughts on this whole situation now with him being in prison? He's doing the shows from prison, at least audio.
So I mean, this is the deal. Like I know Rob, right?
Hmm.
Really, man, I always felt Rob was a good dude, man. Unfortunately, he had a drug addiction. I
Hmm.
talked to him numerous times when he was out. We did some interviews.
Yep.
I tried to encourage him on numerous occasions. The difference between me and Rob is I never had a drug addiction. That doesn't make him a bad dude. It just, he's suffering through some stuff and he couldn't get it together.
Yeah.
And I've encouraged him numerous times. I've tried to help him out. Haven't talked to him in a while. I did see something the other day where I think he did a video from prison about
Mhm.
Tommy. I don't know if he knows that I wrote Tommy's stuff. He probably knows.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, he knows that
I don't know if he
has to know.
mentioned. I don't know if he mentioned that in his video or not. But
Yeah.
man, look, anybody that gets out of prison, man, and gets a second chance, especially through compassionate release, I want to see them succeed because there's dudes
Mhm.
behind them that deserve a chance. Some
Yeah.
of them dudes in there deserve to get out more than I deserve to get out.
Yeah.
They'll never get a chance because they got a nasty judge. They'll just never get that shot. So, I wanted Rob to do right. I wanted Rob to do good, but I can't live Rob's life. Only Rob can live Rob's life.
Yeah.
He knows that there's consequences for actions. He's a very intelligent dude. Make no mistake
He
about
is.
it. He's a good
Yeah.
writer. He just needs to focus on, and I told him this. I told him this numerous times when he was going through that stuff. I said, you got to decide what's important in your life. What are your priorities? What's most important? Is it most important to stay free and live your best life, or, getting high, hanging out with chicks, or doing whatever you might be doing that comes with that lifestyle? Is that what's most important? You have to decide. Nobody else is in the driver's seat but you, Rob. So whether you take a left turn or a right turn, or you continue straight forward, it's up to you where you go. You're driving. He had cars before on compounds. He knows what it is to be a leader. He knows what it is to make, right decisions and what happens when you make bad decisions. I hope, this little bit of time that he had to sit down was a wake-up call, because when you go from life to freedom, I don't know, man. You got to really think about, jeopardizing that freedom, man.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I know you've been there as well, helping him out, and so I just wanted to get your thoughts. So yeah, we can go ahead and close the interview, but I wanted to get your final thoughts. What are you working on? I'm going to make sure people know how to reach you. I'm going to put the link to your book. I'm going to also put Harlan's information up. What other things are you working on? Do you have, we obviously know about the interview with Tommy Reynolds coming up, and hopefully after you talk to him, we'll come back on and talk. But what other things do you have going on maybe you want to share?
I mean, just, I got the paralegal company, freedomfighterspc.com. My email, freedomfighterspc@gmail.com. If you need some help, compassionate release, clemency, administrative remedies, maybe your family member stuck in there, post-conviction, direct appeals. I'm a paralegal, so I help people. Also, my YouTube channel, Blood on the Razor Wire TV. I think we got 230,000 subscribers now.
That's awesome.
As of last night. So
yeah.
Doing good over there. We started doing some documentaries on Urban Crime Chronicles. That's another channel that I have. It's just, true crime stories, not anything to do with, interviews, anything like that. You won't see my face, but you'll know my voice.
Yeah.
So
cool.
People want to check that out. That's what we're doing. We're trying to get on Spotify, getting ready to get some TikTok stuff going on the true crime prison content. And you know what, man, just keep pushing forward, and, hopefully we'll be interviewing Tommy soon. So stay tuned.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Chad, for coming on. And, I'm proud of you, brother. You're doing a lot of great stuff, and that it just is awesome to me, because, you're a lot of people, like I said at the very beginning, talk the talk, but you're actually walking the walk. And I know your passion, heart is into it. And, the energy that you project and everything, it's contagious. I'm just really proud of you, and just thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, brother. Definitely appreciate you.
Yep.
Tell people, man, check me out, Blood on the Razor Wire TV. You will not be disappointed. Urban Crime Chronicles on YouTube as well. And again, thank you for having me, brother.
Hey, thank you, and God bless you, and hopefully you'll be back on after you interview Tommy. Thanks a lot.
I will.
All right.
Thanks everybody for watching the interview with Chad Marks. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear your comments. Before we go, I want to let people know that my former partner, Lee Cole, has a new YouTube channel called 5 Family Productions. Lee just started the channel, and he'll be putting out a mix of politics, mob talks, and interviews. I know you'll like it, and it'll be entertaining. Also, please check out his channel and go over and subscribe to it. Also, Lee just went over 10,000 subscribers on Wrestling with the Devil, and he's doing great stuff over there. He has some big things he'll be announcing soon on Wrestling with the Devil. And finally, please take a look at My Father's Daughter on Patreon. This is an Angel Gotti's Patreon channel where she shares never before shared stories about John Gotti Jr. and her family, including exclusive photos, videos, and interviews. With that said, I wish everybody a wonderful week ahead, and please take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.